I found 2 birth certificates in a manila envelope hidden behind our wedding photo album. My husband's name was on both of them, and the mother's name was my best friend's. My name is Renata, and before I tell you what I found in that envelope, I need you to understand something. I was happy. Or I thought I was. I thought I had built a life worth protecting. I met Dahlia when we were 9 years old, sharing a bag of chips on the steps of our elementary school because neither of us had anyone else to sit with. 22 years of friendship. 22 years of birthdays, breakups, midnight phone calls, and promises we made as children that we actually kept as adults. She was the maid of honor at my wedding. She held my hand when my father died. She was, in every sense that mattered, my sister. And my husband, Marcus, I married him believing he was the safest person in my world. Steady, reliable. The kind of man who remembered how you liked your coffee and never once made you feel small. We'd been married 6 years. We'd been trying for a baby for 4 of them, and every single month that ended in disappointment, Marcus held me and told me it would happen when it was supposed to happen. I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. It was a Tuesday evening in October when everything started to unravel, though I didn't know it yet. I was looking for our marriage certificate. We needed it for a refinancing application, and I remembered Marcus kept important documents in a box on the top shelf of our closet. I pulled it down, and it was heavier than I expected, and it tipped, and papers scattered across the bedroom floor like something out of a nightmare I hadn't had yet. That's when I saw the envelope. Plain, manila, no label, just tucked between old tax returns and expired warranties like it wanted to disappear. I want to tell you I hesitated. I want to tell you I thought about privacy, about trust, about all the reasons a good wife doesn't go digging through her husband's things. But something in my chest already knew. Some old, animal part of me had already sensed the wrongness in the air, the way you can smell rain before the sky even changes color. I opened it. 2 certificates, twin boys, born 14 months ago in a hospital 2 states away. Father, Marcus Allen Reyes, mother, Dahlia Marie Winters. I read it 3 times, 4 times. I kept thinking my eyes were playing a cruel trick, that if I just looked again, the letters would rearrange themselves into something that made sense, something that wasn't this. 14 months ago. I remembered 14 months ago. Dahlia had told me she was taking a sabbatical, moving to be near her aunt in another state to figure some things out after a bad breakup. I had cried with her on the phone. I had sent her flowers. I had asked Marcus if we could send her money for the move, because that's the kind of person I was, the kind of person who loved her friend enough to help her disappear and have another woman's husband's children in secret. I sat down on our bedroom floor, right there among the scattered papers, and I don't know how long I stayed like that. Time didn't move the way it was supposed to. I remember the streetlight outside turning on. I remember the sound of Marcus's car pulling into the driveway, and how my body went rigid, every muscle bracing itself like it already knew what was coming. He walked in still wearing his work clothes, loosening his tie, calling out my name the way he did every single evening for 6 years. "Ren, you home?" I didn't answer. I just held up the envelope. He stopped in the doorway, and I will never, for the rest of my life, forget his face in that moment, not shock, not confusion. Just exhaustion, like a man finally setting down something heavy he'd been carrying for a very long time. "Renata," he said quietly, "I can explain." "Can you?" I said. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It came out flat, hollow, like it belonged to someone standing very far away from the wreckage of her own life. He came and sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, staring at the carpet like it held the words he needed. "It happened during the time we were separated. Remember, the 3 months we were on a break for 11 weeks, Marcus. 11 weeks. And in that time you slept with my best friend, the woman who stood next to me at our wedding." "It wasn't planned," he said, and I almost laughed because of course it wasn't planned. Nothing terrible in a marriage is ever planned. It just happens in the spaces where trust used to be. "She came over to check on me. We were both hurting. It was one night, Ren. One night, and then months later she called me and told me she was pregnant. With twins. I didn't know what to do. I panicked." "You panicked," I repeated. "For 14 months. He looked up at me then, and there were tears in his eyes, and somehow that made it worse, because part of me, the part that had loved him for 6 years, wanted to comfort him even as he was destroying me. I've been sending money. I visit them when I tell you I'm on work trips. I know how that sounds. I know. But I didn't know how to tell you without losing you, and I was a coward, and I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Don't. The word came out sharp enough to cut him off completely. Don't you dare apologize to me like this is something small, like this is a scratched car or a missed anniversary. You have children, Marcus, with Dahlia. You built an entire secret life while I was crying every month because my body wouldn't give us a baby. Do you understand what that did to me? Do you have any idea what I was carrying while you were carrying this? He didn't answer. There was nothing he could say that would matter anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the guest room with the door locked, replaying every phone call with Dahlia over the past 14 months. Every "I miss you." Every "I wish I could tell you more, but I'm just not ready to talk about it yet." Every lie stacked so carefully on top of another lie that the whole structure had looked, from where I stood, like grief, like healing, like something I should respect and give space to. It had never been grief. It had been a secret with a heartbeat, 2 heartbeats. I filed for divorce 11 days later. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't give Marcus the satisfaction of watching me fall apart in front of him ever again. I simply went to a lawyer my coworker recommended, a woman named Priscilla with tired eyes and a voice like sandpaper, and I said, "I want this done clean and I want it done fast." She looked at the papers I brought her, the birth certificates, printouts of the wire transfers I found in our joint account going back over a year, labeled with vague descriptions like consulting fee and family support, and she looked up at me with something like sorrow. "You've done the hard part already," she said. "You found the truth, now we just make it official." Marcus tried to talk to me during those weeks. He'd show up at my sister's house, where I was staying, standing on the porch with his hands shoved in his pockets like a boy waiting to be forgiven for breaking a window. "Ren, please, can we just talk? Not about us, about how we handle this. Whatever you decide about us, I still want you to know the truth." "I already know the truth," I told him one night, standing in the doorway with the porch light making everything look harsher than it was. "You had a secret family for over a year. What else is there to know?" He hesitated, and there was something in his eyes then, something desperate, something that looked almost like fear, not of losing me, but of something else entirely. "There's more," he said, "about my mother, about what she knew." I froze. "What are you talking about?" "Mom knew, Ren. She's known since the beginning." I stood there on that porch, the autumn wind cutting through my sweater, and I felt something shift beneath my feet, like the ground I'd been standing on my entire marriage had just cracked open to reveal another floor underneath, one I never knew existed. Because Eleanor, Marcus's mother, had sat across from me at every holiday dinner for 6 years, had hugged me at my father's funeral, had called me her daughter more times than I could count. And she had known, the whole time she had known. I closed the door in Marcus's face that night, not because I didn't want answers, but because I needed time to prepare myself for how much worse this was about to get. I had no idea, standing there in the cold, that the woman who called herself my second mother was about to become the person who blew my entire world apart for a second time. The days after that conversation with Marcus felt like walking through fog. I kept replaying his words, "Mom knew, Ren. She's known since the beginning," turning them over and over, trying to find an angle where they hurt less. There wasn't one. I didn't call Eleanor. I couldn't. Every time I picked up my phone and saw her name in my contacts, still saved as Mom E, with a little heart emoji I'd added years ago on some sentimental whim, my stomach turned. 6 years of birthday cards signed "Love you, sweetheart." 6 years of her teaching me her stuffed pepper recipe, of her calling just to check in on me during my worst months of fertility treatments, holding my hand in waiting rooms Marcus couldn't always make it to. All of it sitting on top of a secret that could have saved me a year of grieving something that was never going to be real. It was Eleanor who called me first, 9 days after that porch conversation. I almost didn't answer. My thumb hovered over the screen for a long moment before something, maybe the same instinct that made me open that envelope, made me press accept. Renata, her voice cracked on my name. Please don't hang up. Give me one reason, I said, and I meant it as a genuine question, not a threat. She was quiet for a moment, and I could hear her breathing, uneven, like she'd been crying before she even dialed. Because you deserve to hear the truth from me, not from him. And because what he told you isn't the whole story, and I can't live with myself if you go the rest of your life believing I chose to protect him over you. I agreed to meet her. Not out of forgiveness, I want to be clear about that, but because some deep, wounded part of me needed to understand how a woman I loved could watch me suffer for a year and say nothing. We met at a small coffee shop 2 towns over, somewhere neither of us would run into people we knew. Elinor looked older than I remembered. Thinner. Her hands trembled slightly around her cup, and when she looked at me, I saw something I'd never seen in her face before: shame, raw and unhidden. I found out 4 months after it happened, she said, not waiting for me to ask. Marcus came to me in pieces, told me everything the night with Dahlia, and then months later, the call about the pregnancy. He begged me not to say anything, said he was going to fix it, going to figure out how to tell you himself when the time was right. There is no right time to tell your wife you have secret children, I said quietly. I know that. I told him that. I told him 100 times, Renata, I swear to you. Her voice shook. But I was scared too, scared of losing my son, scared of what it would do to this family if it all came out wrong. I told myself I was waiting for him to do the right thing. Every month that passed, I hated myself a little more for staying quiet, and I told myself just a little longer, just let him find the courage. He never found it, I said. I found it, in a box in our closet by accident. Elinor closed her eyes like the words physically hurt her. I know. He called me the night you found the envelope. He was hysterical. And Renata, I want you to know, I told him then, I said if he didn't tell you everything, all of it, I would. There's more, I said. It wasn't a question. I remembered his words on the porch. She nodded slowly and reached into her purse, pulling out her phone with hands that wouldn't quite stay steady. Dahlia has been asking Marcus for more money, not child support more than that. She's been threatening to go public, to sell the story to some tabloid blog, unless he pays her a settlement to, in her words, protect her son's futures. She's been doing this for months. And Marcus has been paying her out of an account I didn't know existed until I found the statements myself, going through his things after he told me. He drained almost $60,000 trying to keep her quiet, Renata. Money that was supposed to go toward the house you two were planning to buy. I sat there, absorbing this new layer of betrayal like cold water slowly filling my lungs. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just secret children. It was a slow, calculated bleeding of the life Marcus and I had built together, funneled quietly to a woman who had once braided my hair before my wedding and told me I looked like a dream. Why didn't Dahlia ever come to me? I asked, though some broken part of me already knew the answer. In 14 months, why didn't she just tell me herself? Elinor's eyes filled with tears. Because as long as it stayed hidden, she had leverage over both of you. She didn't want honesty, sweetheart. She wanted control. I left that coffee shop and sat in my car for almost an hour before I could bring myself to drive. Everything I thought I understood about my marriage, my friendship, my family, all of it had been a stage set, beautiful and convincing from the front, hollow and rotting from behind. But Elinor's confession did something I didn't expect. It didn't make me hate her. It made me finally, completely, let go of any illusion that this marriage could be repaired. The divorce moved forward. Priscilla was relentless. She used the financial records Elinor helped me gather, the wire transfers, the drained account, everything, to make sure the settlement reflected what Marcus had done, not just to me, but to our shared future. I didn't want revenge. I want to be honest with you about that. I wanted, more than anything, to simply be free of the fog he had wrapped around my entire life. Dahlia texted me exactly once during that time. I still remember every word. I know you probably hate me. I never meant for it to go this far. I was lonely and scared and it just happened, and then I didn't know how to stop it. I hope one day you can understand. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say to a woman who had let me cry on the phone about my empty womb while she raised 2 children that belonged, biologically, to my husband. Some betrayals don't deserve closure. Some just deserve silence. The final court date came on a gray morning in late February. I remember standing outside the courthouse afterward, papers signed, 6 years of my life legally, officially over, and feeling something I hadn't expected to feel, not devastation, but a strange, quiet lightness, like I'd been carrying a stone in my chest for over a year without realizing how heavy it had grown. Alina called me that evening. "How are you?" she asked, gently, like she wasn't sure she still had the right to ask. "I'm going to be okay," I told her, and I meant it, maybe for the first time since that October night. "It's going to take time, but I'm going to be okay." "I don't expect you to keep me in your life," she said quietly. "I know I failed you too in my own way, but I want you to know I'm proud of you, for how you handled all of this, for not letting it turn you into someone bitter." I sat with that for a long moment. "I'm not ready to know what our relationship looks like now," I finally said. "But I don't hate you, Alina. You told me the truth eventually. That matters more than you think." It's been almost a year now since that night I found the envelope. I moved into a small apartment with big windows that catch the morning light, something I chose specifically because I wanted my new life to start somewhere bright. I still see Alina sometimes, for coffee, careful and slow, rebuilding something that will never look the way it used to, but might still be worth keeping. Marcus moved to be closer to Dahlia and the twins, and I heard through people we used to share that things between them are tense, complicated, built on a foundation that was never solid to begin with. I don't wish them harm. I've simply stopped wishing them anything at all. Some nights I still think about that envelope, about how one ordinary Tuesday evening changed the entire shape of my life. I used to believe that the people closest to you were the safest place to land. I know now that safety isn't about how long you've loved someone, or how many years you've shared a bed, or a friendship. It's about honesty. It's about who tells you the truth, even when the truth is the hardest thing they've ever had to say. I lost a husband and a best friend in the same year. But somewhere in the wreckage, I found something I didn't know I was missing. The version of myself who no longer needed anyone else's secrets to feel whole. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.